Hey guys, so today we're going to go through equations with pronumerals on both sides as part of equations and formula. Now in previous videos about equations, we've gone through our inverse operations already and we've gone through our rules. So let's quickly go through our rules just as a recap. Number one, whatever you do on one side, you must do on the other. Whatever inverse operation you do on one side, you have to do that on the other side as well. If your answer is not in exact form, like a terminating decimal or a integer, leave it as a fraction or a surd. Leave whatever is with the pronumeral to last. So if there's more than one step that you need to do, leave whatever's directly with the pronumeral to last. If there are grouping symbols or brackets, expand them first. Now, if you have any issues with step 1 to 4, you need to go and look back at the other videos on equations. Now, the new rule that we have is when there are pronumerals on both sides, we need to get all the pronumerals onto one side. Now, it doesn't matter if it's on the left-hand side or if it's on the right-hand side. We just want to get all the X's or Y's or whatever the letter or symbol is onto one side and all of the numbers onto the other side. So the rule here is we take the smallest pronumeral across. Whatever the smallest number is, including negatives. Negatives are smaller than 0, remember? So the smallest value of the pronumeral we'll take across. Let's go through a few examples so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's have a look at example number 1. Now number 1 says that you have 2x plus 5 on the left-hand side, and you have x plus 7 on the right-hand side. So you have x's on the left-hand side, and you have x's on the right-hand side. Now our main goal is to get x by itself. But before I can get x by itself, I have to get all the x's onto one side. Now, which one's smaller? Is 2x smaller or is x smaller? Well, x is smaller. So what am I going to do on both sides? I'm going to do minus x on both sides. And that gets rid of that x on that side. So now I have 2x minus x, which is x, plus 5 equals 7. And now I have a one-step equation. What's with the x? Plus 5. What's the opposite of plus 5? Minus 5. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So minus 5 on both sides, I get the answer as x equals 2. Let's go through the next example. The next example, I have pronumerals on both sides. I have 6y and I have negative 2y. Now, which one is smaller? Is 6y smaller or is negative 2y smaller? Well, negative 2y is smaller. So what's the opposite of negative 2y? Well, that's quite simple. The opposite of negative 2y is plus 2y. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. Now I have 6y plus 2y, which is 8y, minus 1 equals 15. And now I have a two-step equation. Leave whatever's with the pronumeral to last. So get rid of the minus 1 first. Opposite of minus 1 is plus 1. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. I'm left with 8y equals 16. Now, that's 8 times y. The opposite of 8 times y is divided by 8. So I divide both sides by 8, and I get y equals 2. You should be getting the hang of this by now. Let's go through example 3. Example 3 has 3r on one side and 2r on the other side. So remember the rule? We take the smallest one across. So 2r is smaller out of 3 and 2. So the opposite of positive 2r is negative 2r. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So now I'm left with 3r minus 2r, which is r, plus 7 equals 12. And now, to get r by itself, I minus 7 on both sides, and I get r equals 5. Let's go through example 4. Now, example 4 is a little bit trickier because you have x and you have minus x. So what some people like to do is they like to write the 1 in front of it because that's actually 1x and that's actually minus 1x. Now, which one's smaller out of 1 and minus 1? Well, it's minus 1. So what am I going to do on both sides? I'm going to plus x or plus 1x onto both sides. That eliminates that one. I'm left with x plus x, which is 2x, plus 6 equals 3. And now I have a two-step equation there. Leave whatever's directly with the pronumeral to last. Get rid of the plus 6. Opposite of plus 6 is minus 6. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other. So now I'm left with 2x equals negative 3, because 3 minus 6. Very important you don't make a silly mistake there and you type that in your calculator just to make sure you're not doing anything wrong. 3 minus 6, not 6 minus 3. 3 minus 6 is negative 3. And now you have 2 times x. The opposite of 2 times is divided by 2. So I divide both sides by 2. And I'm left with a fraction because that's going to be an irrational number. Remember, one of our rules was if the number is not an integer or a terminating, then you need to ensure you write it as a fraction or a surd. In this case, a fraction. Let's go through to example 5. Now, example 5 has 3x and minus 5x. Which one of those is smaller? Well, minus 5x is smaller. So I'm going to do plus 5x on both sides. And I'm left with 10 plus 7x equals 9. And again, we have a two-step equation here. Leave whatever's with the pronumeral to last. Get rid of the 10. Minus 10 on both sides. And then I'm left with that. And then divided by 7, divided by 7. And again, we leave it as a fraction because it is not a integer or a terminating decimal. Let's go on to the last example. Now, the last example is a little bit trickier because it involves grouping symbols or brackets. And if you remember from our last video and the rules that we have, whenever you have grouping symbols, expand them first. It makes your life a lot easier. So 3 times x and 3 times 6, 2 times x and 2 times 4. And now I have pronumerals on both sides. So is 3x or 2x smaller? Well, 2x is smaller, so I'm going to do minus 2x on both sides. And I'm left with x plus 18 equals 8. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to minus 18 on both sides. And I get x equals negative 10. And remember, you can always check all your answers by subbing them back into their original equation and making sure they balance out. Okay, I have a few questions here for you to do. Pause the video, do the questions, and then come back and check up on your answers. Okay, you should be done by now. There's the recommended answers. Hopefully you got them all right. If you didn't, go back and watch the video again or the other equation videos. Till next time, take care, guys.